So we're really going to talk about what's going on out here. About 2 months ago, and I don't know if I'm saying the name right, Stefco made the video about pretty privilege. And I agree with pretty much everything that she said in the video. I didn't care for the part where she kind of blamed it on patriarchy, and I'll probably get into talking about that later, but I just want to get into the meat and the potatoes of this video. And this video is in conjunction with Captain Solo because we've really been brainstorming about this issue. And it started with uh, my concept, and this goes back to the concept that I have been trying to beat into black people in the woke sphere. I don't know if you want to call it that, but I've been beating this drum for a long time. That it's not colorism, it's featurism, and it's always been featurism. And being honest about the way that I self-examine my own indoctrination. I always knew that there was something wrong. That it wasn't just colorism. And everything focuses on colorism. And here's the problem: it's like if you're really gonna try to address a problem or solve a problem or engage it in any logical way, or you have to identify what the problem actually is. And I can understand how everybody got pointed in the direction of colorism, because of ideas of racism and white supremacy in America, and it was white people and black people, and white people set up the system and basically said everything about black people is negative. But you got to look at what happened. And so Captain Solo and myself, we walked through the timeline, and it got heated at some points, but we walked through the timeline of how we got to where we got to. Because, I looked at the woman in the video and listened to her talk about how if she walked into the club, she doesn't have it. Like, the brothers that were sitting at the table, they didn't even look up. And when she told the story, and I'm saying, this happens a lot because a lot of times these light skinned women love to hang around dark skinned women that, usually they feel that they're more attractive than, but they're not going to say anything. And so they kind of stack the odds in their favor. It's that whole pseudo hot chick, situation. And a lot of times you'll hear black women when they tell their stories about, when they weren't chosen, the woman that they weren't chosen against is a light skinned woman. And you never hear the stories about them getting chosen, or excuse me, them not being chosen, and the woman being chosen being the woman that has, is the supposed white woman dipped in chocolate, the black woman with the keen features. Although she did acknowledge this on the interview that she had with Yanni, and it was irritating for me to have to sit there and listen to, because Yanni, and then she had Karazin's question, why don't you go where you're celebrated, not tolerated? And she actually responded and answered that question in a really mature way. It's like, I'm talking about pretty privilege. I'm not just talking about colorism or featurism. Featurism, is a factor. It is an issue. But, she said that if she truly had pretty privilege, the way that she sees and defines pretty privilege, then she would be able to go anywhere. She would be able to go anywhere in the world and, it not matter. It wouldn't just be a matter of, oh, well, if I go to this community over here, I'm suddenly going to become a 10, or I'm suddenly going to become attractive. And, part of the reason why, I feel that won't happen or doesn't work is because, I do feel that black people are, we kind of exist in isolation. And we are very much different than many of the other groups, phenotypically speaking. All the other groups, Arab, Asian, Indian, they at least have 2 out of the 3 things that will make them, basically be able to share the same beauty products. They all have, straight hair or loose textured hair, that they can all use the same brush or the same comb. For the most part, they're all, fair skinned. If you go down and you talk about, South Indians, yeah, they're dark skinned, but what type of hair do they have? The same as, let's say a white woman, or, their features are more in line, with that white beauty standard, right? I mean, Arabs for the most part, are seen as just, a subcategory of the Caucasian group, right? And then Asians, again, the hair, the skin, they share a lot of the same. Where black people, it's the features are different, the skin color is different, the hair texture is different. So I don't really expect there for black people's looks to be accepted globally. And the question that I have for Stefco is she looking for to be, desired by the black man that she wants, or is she looking for global validation? And I asked this question, before of many black women. It is a black man being interested in you enough, or do you want the whole world, to recognize it? Do you want pretty privilege? Do you want to, be the global standard like, the white woman is currently the global standard? It's just a question. But in examining all this, one of the things that came up, and I'm going to take this right out of Dr. T. Hassan Johnson's book, because he had a video a while ago where he said that black men were reintroduced to the world, which we were. We were reintroduced to the world through hip hop. And not only that, the world was reintroduced to black men. And I'm going to get into that in a second. But black men were reintroduced to the world, through the popularity of hip hop. Black men, dark-skinned black men specifically, were just propelled astronomically, to the top of youth culture and, just the whole entertainment industry, all of that. I mean, they wouldn't even put Michael Jackson on MTV, before the 90s. He was the first one to be on there. And then, there was all type of attacks on hip hop, and white people were really pushing back. Even when it came to freedom of speech, like there were like Congress hearings and stuff like that. But in any event, I'm saying when you look at how other groups, tend to come to the forefront, the women are promoted first, and then the men are promoted second. What happened with black men is that black men were promoted through hip hop, and then followed, sports and entertainment. And then it kind of became like this marriage between sports and entertainment, where you got Snoop Dogg hanging out with Kobe Bryant, who was the EL, by the way. But I'm saying why do people keep messaging me when I'm making a video? So here you have a situation where not only are the skin color of black men is being associated with the now promoted hypermasculinity, but the phenotype of black men is also being associated with hypermasculinity. And that hurt black women, in my opinion. And not only that, it also made it difficult for light-skinned black men to navigate around, because the face of hypermasculinity was a dark-skinned black man. Going back to New Jack City and Wesley Snipes stabbing Christopher Williams in the hand. I was watching a video it was a review of, I think it was like Christopher Williams Unsung or something like that. It was one of those episodes. And the woman was talking about Christopher Williams, and she was cracking, every so often, she was kind of crack a light skin joke. And she said, Christopher Williams, the brothers that are mixed with DeBarge. I was like, when did DeBarge become, a racial category? Right? She's mixed with DeBarge, going back to the DeBarges and songs like Switch and light skinned guys singing in falsetto. Right. And then, we all know Michael Jackson had vitiligo, but, Michael Jackson and Prince in the 80s, it was cool to be androgynous. It was cool to wear makeup and be feminine, but that died when, hip hop came on the scene and hypermasculinity came on the scene. All that died. And so where if you look at other groups, there is no hypermasculinity. Only black men are hypermasculine. And that's how it was, how it's been promoted. Now, what what would have needed to happen, or what should have happened, is that black women should have been promoted first before black men, this reintroduction to the world. And then blackness would have been, or at least there would have been a category of femininity that was directly associated with black women and their features and their skin tone. But that didn't happen. It was black men that were promoted first. And, even going back to that woman saying, Christopher Williams, he was mixed with DeBarge. I looked at several photos of Christopher Williams when he was young. I mean, this is a light-skinned, masculine guy. And, he had a deep voice. And I'm like, there's no reason that he should have been disqualified. Right. And it wasn't just dark-skinned women who kicked him off the bus. It was light-skinned women as well. And so Captain Solo and I, we talked about a couple of things. And one of the things that came up, because I had said to him, and I was like, I've always noticed, this sort of, the black women that were promoted were, they had the keen features. Didn't matter whether they were light or dark. They had the keen features. We can go all the way back to Dorothy Dandridge. We could go to, Beverly Johnson, Jane Kennedy, Imam. And what's interesting is I found an interview, of Imam Bowie, and it's actually an interview from about 10 years ago, right around 2010, 2011. And she was highly irritated.
All Somalis are legal. So that's exactly how my sisters and brothers carry themselves. That's my whole nation carries themselves. So, do you know what I mean? It's like when I arrived here, people would say, in the industry, people would say, the black model. I mean, I've never considered myself a black person. In my country, we're all black, so there was not a point of me saying I'm black. Of course I'm black. So, I mean, I have been described as I look like a white woman dipped in chocolate. I mean, I think they think it's something to be proud of.
In those days, possibly it was.
But it's insulting. I don't have any white in me. I don't want white people claiming me. I have no white in me. I'm a pure Somali.
And Beverly Johnson,
yes,
then were and still are the top models. We set the bar so high. Young women are just aspiring to be the next Iman. In fact, we talked to Uluchi, yes, who admires you greatly.
Oh, I adore Uluchi. Yeah. Well, when I arrived here, Beverly Johnson was the top model in the industry. She was the first black model who was on the cover of American Vogue. So, I mean, she was at the height of her career. But when I arrived, they made a tension between the two of us. Because in this industry, it was always, they only work with one black model at a time. They don't need more than one.
And it still continues.
Oh, it's still the same.
Yeah, because you say that even on designers will only have 2 black models or 2 Asian models.
Exactly. And that's even if they use them. Because it has been for a while. They haven't even been using any black models. And we're talking about at an era where we have Obama, a black president. So, so our industry is a little bit convoluted in the way it thinks. And it's a very racist business at its core. They say to black models nowadays, things like designers will say, we don't need black models this season. And this is today. We're not talking about 1975. We're talking about today.
But they're using Naomi Campbell a lot, and
of course, no, there are girls. As I said, there's one black at a time, one black girl at a time. Of course, there are a lot of, from Oluchi, Naomi Campbell, Tyra Banks, Veronica Webb, now Millen Ward. There are tons of black models, but they'll give a chance to one at a time.
There's one model who somehow brought about confusion, because after Iman, who supposedly looked like a white woman dipped in chocolate, then they brought out Alec Webb,
yes,
who was completely different. The features were not the perceived a white woman dipped in chocolate.
Yeah.
Your feelings about why all of a sudden such a major switch from a model that looked like Iman to a model that looked like Alec Webb.
I don't think that they were doing any switch. I think Alec Webb came on the scene. You know what I mean? One thing I really would like people to understand, the continent of Africa, there is not one look. Okay, we're not like saying England. We're not like saying France. We're not like saying Italy. That's a country. The difference between a country and a continent has a lot of countries within that border, right? So the south does not look like the north, and the east does not look like the west. Neighboring countries don't look the same. Okay, the Kenya and Somalia has their neighbors. They're attached to each other with a territory, and we look completely different. So the idea to say that I represent Africa, it's not right. Yeah, it's not right. But at the same time, the idea to say Alec Webb represents Africa is not right, because that means I'm not African. You know?
You know, she even brought up the whole white woman dipped in chocolate, and they actually talked about Alec Weck. Now, she said in the interview, she said that there isn't one look for the continent of Africa. Germany is a country, Italy is a country, France is a country, but Africa is a continent. And, you know, the way I feel about that, I don't want to get into, you know, how I talk about how I feel that, you know, Somalians are confused and, you know, there's all this battling back and forth where some Somalians say they're black, some say they aren't. The way I look at it, you're on the coast, you were trading with the Arabs, you mixed and mingled with the Arabs. Same with North Africa. But the rest of the continent of Africa, the features, the phenotype that is being put down are the Bantu, and I know that's a language family, but the Bantu speaking black people, you know, short 4C hair, you know, wide bridge nose, dark skin, and, you know, high cheekbones, maybe, you know, that's the category that's being smacked down. And listening to Imam Bowie's interview, what kind of made me cringe watching this interview is the South African woman that was interviewing her. I was saying to myself that this woman would not be, she would not be picked. But she was so happy and she was so proud of the fact that she was so happy and she was so proud of the fact that, you know, Imam Bowie's, you know, beauty had been recognized, you know, for so long. And I'm saying, I remember Imam Bowie, you know, as a kid, you know, in the 80s. And I remember you know, like you just did, like, we didn't even know that there was a category of black people who even looked like that. And again, talk about one-sided promotion. Show me where the East African men are being promoted like East African women. You won't see it. You will not see it in the West. It's like they're virtually invisible. And what what I see is that Imam Bowie was used as a weapon against the black community and mainly black women and black features, you know, by reinforcing white supremacy. Now, she articulates that point in the video, basically saying she's offended at being called a white woman dipped in chocolate. She was like, you know, there is no white in me. She's like, I'm Somalian. And then she said she didn't even identify as black because in Somalia, everybody was black. And what's funny is I knew an Eastern European woman who felt the same way in her country, you know, who was from the Baltics. She's like, everybody's white. Like, we don't walk around with whiteness as a part of our identity. It's just something. I mean, we live in a homogenous society. All people are white. That's just what it is. But we don't walk around like America and sit there and say, hey, you know, I'm a white person. And so I totally understood what Iman was saying when she said, you know, I didn't see myself as a black person. Like, I was just a person in Somalia and everybody was black. Like, it's so as a matter of fact, it's not even something that you give much thought to and think about. Right. And this is the point that she was making. Right. But what ended up happening with women like Imam Bowie is that, in my opinion, you know, white supremacy grabbed women like that and they put them up on a pedestal. And because, you know, black people were so not used to, especially black women, not used to seeing their presence up there, they were elated to see anything that looked like it was black up there. But when we get into featurism, when we get into, you know, the picking time, that's when everything falls apart. That's when you start to see the problem with Imam Bowie being labeled as a beautiful black woman in the West for, black women who are of West African descent by and large. Even though she was a dark skinned woman or a brown skinned woman, it seems like she's gotten lighter over the years, but she was a brown, a brown skinned woman. And if you notice from I'd say, the 50s all the way up, there's been a slow transition. And this is what we're talking about how Featurism really crept up on everybody, right? Because it's like you have Imam Bowie up there, and a black woman will champion Imam Bowie because that's the only thing, that, hey, she's black and we're going to claim her. Yeah, they're going to claim. The stupid thing is like white supremacy put her there. So you can't really use her against white supremacy when white supremacy put her there. But what black women will do is they'll try to grab Imam Bowie and use Imam Bowie to challenge the white beauties. Like, in other words, well, this is because Imam Bowie's, her facial features are in line with European beauty standard and she's got the dark skin. Since everybody's focused on the idea that it's colorism, they're like, well, here's a beautiful black woman. White supremacy. But they're not really paying attention to the fact that white supremacy puts that up there to maintain the idea that this is what a beautiful black person is, which is a black person that has and resembles us. And then the thing is, and I talked about this so many times, throughout all these conversations we've had about colorism, where women will jump up and I'll see them doing it. They will jump up and they will grab East Africans. They will jump up and they will grab, Chile and Ryan Destiny. Like I said, go look at Ryan Destiny's mother. They'll go up there and they'll grab, Lori Harvey. They'll go up there and they'll grab Sierra. And they'll grab all these keen featured black women. They'll grab Tatiana Ali. Look at her. She's beautiful because she has dark skin. And they'll do that against the idea that black is ugly, blackness is ugly, challenging, the white beauty standard and white supremacy. But when it comes to the picking time, when it comes to black men actually picking, they don't want black men to pick those women. And it's very confusing. I tell you, it's very confusing. It was very confusing growing up as a young black boy. And these women are being put up there, the imams and the Tatiana Ali's, they're being put up there as beautiful black women. And black women will sit there and co-sign them. Now, I'm not saying that the black boys are saying that these women are beautiful just because black women co-sign them. That's not true. No, these women are beautiful and the black boys recognize them as beautiful. But there's a whole bunch of fanfare that's behind these women because they don't have West African features, and black women co-sign that. When in reality, that's why they bring up women like, again, when we're having the beauty contest, when we're trying to challenge white supremacy and we're having the beauty contest against white supremacy, they'll grab Imam Bowie, or they'll grab, Chanel Imam. They'll grab the watered down black woman. She's got to be brown skin, but she's going to have features that are not so strongly associated with West Africa. But then when it comes to the self-hate litmus test for black men, that's when these women go off and then they grab the Alec Weck. That's when they go off and then they grab the Lupita Nyong'o. They're not going to take Lupita Nyong'o and then put Lupita Nyong'o up against, I don't know, Heidi Klum or, Jessica Simpson or something like that. They're not going to go and grab Lupita for that. They're going to go grab Iman for that. But again, it's very confusing when these women are beautiful in one sense, and that's what they're said, but they're not to be chosen in another sense. You see? And so, what was I going to say? Hold on a second. Okay, I remember. And so when speaking on, colorism, when black women would go up there and they say it's colorism, all the women that I named are not black women that don't get chosen. Chili from TLC, Lori Harvey, even Aaliyah, the singer, right? And, depending on the lighting, she can look darker in some situations and lighter in other situations. But she was another one when I was growing up, and I was saying to myself, but she, oh, she's so beautiful. Everybody jumping up and down. I'm like, what is she though? Like, what are you saying? Like, yes, she's black, and we come in we're a diverse group of people. And see, this is where the nonsense comes in. We're so diverse. People would say that, and I would sit there and I would look at Aaliyah, and I would say, that's all her hair. She doesn't have 4C hair. She doesn't look like Viola Davis. She doesn't look like Lupita. This is before Lupita, but she doesn't look like the black women that my black female peers would argue that, black men are rejecting, and, the Ryan Destinies is not like, I cringe every time I see black women online doing it. They're like, and Ryan Destiny is beautiful, but Ryan Destiny doesn't look like, Stefco. Let's be real about that. And see, this is where the real difficult part is, because the question is can strong West African features and beauty occupy the same space? See, that's what nobody's really examining. Can it occupy the same space? And this is the whole issue with black beauty and black ugliness not really ever being defined. And this the way that, all this is kind of transpired. Because I already know, like, especially when you want to talk about like what the chick was talking about in her video with high value man, you know what I mean? Like, look, this is how the transition happened, right? Because I recognize all this stuff, the Vogue and all that stuff that Beverly Johnson on Vogue and Jane Kennedy and, all these black women that were, would be in like cigarette ads. Hell, I even brought up to Cap. I brought up the sister that was in Rick James' Give It To Me Baby. There's a scene in there. She gets in and out of the pool and whatnot. And Cap just said point blank, he was like, nah, colorism was so bad in the late 80s and early 90s that, it just didn't matter. Like, and he made this point about the fact that the reason it didn't matter is because there was no fantasy version of any of those women. Even if they look good, there was no fantasy version. The fantasy version did not come until Chili came in TLC. And one of the women that I was going to, that I brought up about, these women that were being passed off as beautiful black women, and they were white women dipped in chocolate or just, keen featured women. Because even if you look at all the light skinned women that are pedestalized, they all have keen features. I talked to a brother just the other day, and I was explaining this to him because I was trying to get feedback, and he was like, yeah, man. He was like, I never thought about it like that, but you're right. He was like, man, if I run up on a light skinned chick from behind, or you see a chick that's light skinned, if her nose isn't shaped a certain way, if her facial features aren't a certain way, if she has strong West African features, he's kind of disappointed because he's expecting there to be a certain look. And it makes sense because most light skinned people are going to have that look. Most light-skinned people are going to tend to have looser texture hair, good hair, because it comes with the genes. You get a packet of genes. You don't just get, the nose or the lips or the hair. Like you get a packet of genes. Sometimes sometimes like we've all seen the light-skinned chick that, there's a girl that she has a YouTube channel where she's out there in Idaho or something like that. Dad's white, mom's black. And then people will have said shit to her like, you have all the features that white society says are so great, except for the hair, because she got her mother's hair, which is the 4C hair. So it's a basket of features. It's just a random basket of features that you get, but they tend to be a certain way. The black women with the white features, the Eurocentric features or whatever, they're not that common. And as a, they tend to be pedestalized, just like the light skinned women are pedestalized. But if you look at light skinned women that have stronger West African features, they tend not to be like, even though and I'll hear sisters say that, point this out, and I agree with them. If you took a light skinned woman who had strong West African features and a dark skinned woman who has strong West African features, and you put them right next to each other, the guys are going to go for the light skinned chick. So there is like this point system to like basically how far away from a black woman can you get? Okay. And then one of the other things that Cap, said was that, another reason why people thought, it had a great deal to do with colorism is because, black men weren't promoting, dark skinned women with those features. And I'm like, like with the keen features, so women that look like Chili. And I'm like, well, that didn't happen. Well, I'll say this, going to what he said, there was no fantasy category until Chili of TLC. Or I'd argue, yeah, until Chili of TLC, because then was and it also could be argued Tatiana Ali from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But Ashley, she kind of had her character had to grow. It wasn't until she got grown that people really started looking at her, because she, on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, she was a child at first. So that took some time. But TLC, there was a video, Kat pointed it out. It's called Hat to the Back. And Chili, she had on, there was a little clip in there where she had on, because usually TLC, they were always wearing baggy stuff. So nobody knew how they were built and how they looked. But it was Hat to the Back. And it's Chili in there. And she had on a black tube top and a black, I think it was a black skirt. And he said that blew brothers' minds. And that's when all these women, came into, or excuse me, that Chili category finally had like its moment. Because I looked up Chili and I looked up, her mother is straight up black woman, Ava Thomas, straight up black woman. But Chili's father, I think it's like, I forget his Abdul or something like that. Anyway, her father is now, in one thing that I found, and I'm saying on the Chili TV show, they had an episode where Chili brought her father and her brother was there. Her brother, ironically, looks like, he's like the Christopher Williams type. He's light skinned with quote unquote good hair. But Chili, she got the Indian hair from her father, but, she got the dark skin from her mother, which, creates the look that is Chili. But, her father was so crazy is if you listen to her father, if you go just type in Chili, who's Chili's father or whatever, her father sounds like a black man. Now, again, the piece, what I looked up the research, Wikipedia and all that, trying to figure out who her father was. One said that he was Indian/Arab. The other one said that he's Bengali. And then the other one, it says he's of Bengali descent, which kind of, and I don't know why they do this. It makes you think that, there's some black in there because he's of Bengali descent, meaning, he's still a black man, but there's something, there's something else there. Like, no, I'm not thinking that there's any amount of black in this man. He's just a Bengali guy that's kind of somehow got himself in the black community and is being passed off, as a black man. And, just like that guy that went to Harvard and shaved his head so that he could get, the HBC, the not HBCU, the black scholarship, to Harvard, So, there's some people amongst, black people's midst that are, people think that they're black and they're not. Mickey Free, that's an example, that whole Dave Chappelle skit, thinking that Mickey Free was just another brother. Mickey Free is 100% Native American. See, this is the problem with not reorganizing the race, and that's a whole separate conversation. But this is the problem, with not reorganizing the race. The only reason this is coming up in conversation is because, we're more woke and more conscious than previous generations. We see this and we examine it. And, other things like, example, we talked about Barack Obama. And it's like nobody saw this coming. Like nobody recognized what was actually going on. It's like, Barack Obama wins the presidency. He's biracial. And black men are like, my president is black, my Lambo's blue, right? Then let's say, another decade passes and then, you get another biracial president. Black men would be like, yeah, that's right, brother. We need to at least have another brother in the White House, right? Then like another decade or another 4 years passes. And then you get another biracial president. Brothers would be like, now, wait a minute. I'm starting to see a pattern. By the fourth biracial president, black men would be like, oh, man, he ain't black. He's biracial. We need to call it like it is. Like they would start snapping. And basically, that's kind of what's happened with, sisters, via at least the ones that are woke, and they're starting to pick up on this sort of stuff. Like, hey, why am I out? Like, there's this whole category. That's why I'm saying the colorism thing. The colorism is not what it is. It just looks like that because you get a black guy choosing a woman, and he's choosing a woman, and she's got the keen features. You're so focused on the color, you're ignoring the fact that there may be more to why he's choosing her. Right, going back to the Tisha Campbells, going back to the Aisha Currys. You know what I mean? Now, it could be argued that Aisha Curry, nobody's paying attention to Aisha Curry because she's kind of asexual. Like, Lupita's kind of asexual, kind of girl next door. But, like, you don't picture, like, Lupita, sticking her tongue out like Miley Cyrus being sexually suggestive. All over my face. Like, no. Like, Lupita, like, you just can't picture that. And Aisha Curry, she wants the thirst. She wants, the pretty privilege. She wants all that. She got married early and all that stuff. But I'm saying Aisha Curry, I don't know any brothers that have ever sat around and said, man, who's bad bitch? Aisha Curry. Like Aisha Curry doesn't get the same energy as Lori Harvey. But let's face it, Aisha Curry doesn't have the same features as Lori Harvey, not in my opinion. Or arguably, some of these other women, that have more keen features. Because let's face it, I mean, Aisha Curry got a round face. She got a round chipmunk face. Maybe that's what it is. But she doesn't have the look. Yeah, she has green eyes, but she doesn't have, that look. Like, when you start going through all these pedestalized, black women, or racially ambiguous women, that have that seductive, narrow-faced feature. And you see this. Look, I can go back. I remember when they did that, 2010 Vogue edition, and you had Naomi Campbell and you had maybe one other West African woman in the magazine. All the other ones were East African with slender noses and high cheekbones, and they had very much a European look, and then their hair was, none of them were wearing their hair like afros, maybe one of the chicks, but, generally speaking, it's this, this hair draped down over the side. Iman Bowie is the same thing. She wears wigs and hair draped down to the side. Naomi Campbell, she's always worn, these sort of wigs, because, and then I was trying to explain that to Cap about like the point systems and the different category, like, because one of the things that I said, and this is about, I've had multiple attempts at trying to make this video. I made the point that, in even the, like, when we have a whole bunch of black women in the room, right, and you're trying to assess black women's beauty, truth be told, women should be categorized by features if we really want to have a true black beauty contest. Okay, all you keen featured women, you go in beauty contest A. This is the black beauty contest A. So all you women with the pointy noses and all that, you get over here. All you women with quote unquote good hair, you're in this category, or maybe there's an overlap between A and B, but you go in, the beauty contest B. And then all the 4C hair women with strong West African features, and dark skin, you go in beauty category C, and then we assess the beauty category in what C is. And then we may have to have some subcategories, because what happens if you get a chick that she's got strong West African features, but she's got, quote unquote good hair? Now, which category does she go in? And you get this sort of overlap. So there's like this sliding scale, right? But if we're honest, if we look at the situation and it's, for what it is, it is the women that are the, West African featured 4C hair women that are shunned the most relative to the other categories of women, even though all of them are underneath the umbrella of dark skin. There's a hierarchy. So once you get off of the colorism and then you go over to the features, there's a sliding scale with the features, and there's a point system with the features. And this is how you end up with women like Chili. Once she became the sex symbol, once she created the category. And this is what I've talked about, as somebody who has featurist tendencies himself because of, the way that, all this, the way I was socialized looking at all this stuff. You know what I mean? But I knew it was bullshit because my intellectual mind wouldn't allow me to see it any other way. I'm like, chili is not. I'm like, women will be like, chili is beautiful. Like you be sitting, like you'll sit there and you'll be having a debate about colorism, and then women would bring up Halle Berry, they would bring up women like Chili, and these are beautiful black women, and I'm like, and the woman saying the shit doesn't look anything like that. The woman talking it looks like Viola Davis. And she's sitting there telling me about, how, white women or Hispanic women aren't the best because there's beautiful black women out there like Chili and Beyonce and Halle Berry, and because, sometimes Chili would get thrown in there, but, there's always been this confusion. There was the confusion with, when it was color, light skinned women will be brought up very quickly, just like Imam. When they want to challenge the idea that there are no beautiful black women, they will grab biracial women and put them on a pedestal. But then when it comes to the self-hate litmus test, you better not pick that bitch. Otherwise, I'm going to slam you with colorism. But to go up against the white woman, she's cool. I mean, you see this with the same thing with Meghan Markle. She's a black queen. She's a black queen. And black women identifying with her because the royal family is rejecting her. And white people rejecting light-skinned people and biracial people is not the same as them rejecting black people. I know people think that. They think it's all in the same vein. It's not in the same vein. It is that they are rejecting them because they are not white. That is why they are rejecting them. They are not white. That's how they maintain white supremacy and white hegemony. But any other time they are weaponized against black people. Meghan Markle was weaponized against black people for the entirety of her actress career. Sit there and grab Meghan Markle, throw her in a movie, and then say, "What are you talking about? We have a black woman." Because they don't want to see a black woman up there. They're going to grab Meghan Markle and call her, a black woman for again. A black woman and her beauty is not to challenge the white beauty standard. And as a matter of fact, it reinforces it. Her beauty is designed to challenge the idea of, of black beauty. And even though we don't really have an idea, but actually, let me rephrase that. Her purpose is to define what black beauty for a black woman is, which really ain't a black woman. And that's how white supremacy, is, that's how it's maintained. But the other thing that happened was, when after black men got promoted and they were reintroduced to the world, and then the world was reintroduced to them, because now you have black men, they're up there, they're associated with status and wealth and youth culture. And, they're partying and they got the cars and everything. In the 80s, black men didn't have any of that. They had none of that. But then you got a bunch of young guys and they're up there in their freaking 1990 Mustang, brand new, red candy paint. I mean, like other women became interested. And see, that's the whole thing. Like going back to the Vanity Six. Kat brought up, I think it's Susan Moonsey, right, which was the Indian chick in Vanity Six. And personally, I thought she looked good. Between her and, I didn't pay attention to the white woman, but between, Denise Matthews, who was the lead singer, and, Susan Moonsey, if you said here's Susan Moonsey, I wouldn't have seen that as a loss. But at the time, there was no, a dark-skinned woman, there was no fantasy example of a dark-skinned woman, not fantasy. And it didn't happen until 10 years later, then when TLC came out and then Chili came out, and then people started looking at Chili and they were like, yeah, I want a black woman that looks like that. And then here's where it really gets messed up. Because now you have black men fantasizing about a category of black women that doesn't really exist in the black population like that. Or arguably, even if you want to say that they're included in the black community, they're so rare, it's pathetic. So here you got black men. Well, the beautiful black woman looks like Chili. Well, Chili, technically speaking, she ain't really a black woman. Yeah, I know you see dark skin. I know sisters see dark skin, and they sit there and they co-sign it. But Chili is half Bengali. You know what I'm saying? Even and I don't know whether the Susan Moonsey was I don't know if it's Susie or Susan. I gotta look again, but I'm saying uh, she's from Trinidad and Tobago. So there might be some black ancestry in there, because she's in that West Indian category. But, for the most part, she looks Indian. So a couple of things, in the late 80s, or not even because actually, Vanity Six and all that and Apollonia Six and all that was like the early 80s. Okay, that Prince had these groups. But I'm saying, you know, not only was there no fantasy category, brothers weren't dating out like that. Brothers didn't start dating out like that until, and you can go back and you can look at the biracial numbers from the 80s. It was low. It was real low. It was like like the number of interracial marriages between black men and I believe it was white women. I think it was like something like, I can't even remember. It was somewhere between 100,000 and 400,000. It was low. Where now, whether people are getting married or not, I don't even know if they keep track of it. But the all the exoticals that you see today, the so-called light skins and all these racially ambiguous and mulatta and Kerry Hilson women and who else is popular right now? Who else is a popular light skinned chick that is always like just Mulata. Who's the other one? Oh, Doja Cat and shit like that. That's from the late 2000s. Late 90s and early 2000s. That's when all those people were born, and they were born off of the back of, again, black men being reintroduced to the world in the 90s through hip hop and sports and entertainment. And you had some non-black women that hopped their ass over the fence and were getting with Jamal and all that stuff, and then you had a continuation or exacerbation of colorism. And this goes back to something that Six Goddess said. I'm gonna use one of her statements, which is black men coming to collect. See, in 1985, all those dark-skinned dudes, nobody was checking for them. It wasn't until after hip hop and the explosion of hip hop that all of a sudden now that same light skinned chick that wasn't paying you any mind in 1985, now it's 1994, and she's all on your nuts. You see? And so, dark skinned dudes, man, they were coming to collect. They was, oh man, I'm gonna fuck this bitch in the ear. I'm gonna fuck her in the nose. You know what I mean? They were, I'm gonna destroy this chick, because they came to collect. I couldn't have her before, but now I can have her because, dark skinned dudes are in. Thank you, Nino Brown, Wesley Snipes, New Jack City. And so they were in, and you couldn't get any more masculine than a dark skinned dude. And other races of women, this is how media works. Other races of women, they like, ooh, he looking kind of good. Like, you can't tell me that, like, recently with Black Panther and Michael B. Jordan playing Killmonger, that you had women that maybe they didn't look at black men at all. Some of the younger generation, they're like, I don't like black guys. And then they go and they watch Black Panther and they see Michael B. Jordan up there playing Killmonger. And they're like, well, maybe, they start thinking about it. And that's kind of sort of what happened. And then with all those brothers that were getting with a lot of those non-black women, that's why you have more, like, all this population of, I can tell you, all this population of all these exoticals that exist today, and all these half this and half that did not exist in the 80s, and it didn't exist in the early 90s. It didn't exist. A lot of don't get me wrong, there were people who were mixed race, like Mariah Carey, like, she goes back, that happened like how old is Mariah Carey? That had to be in like the 60s. You know what I'm saying? It did go on, but not like it went on in the late 90s, and it has gone on ever since. Because by the late 90s, brothers from, I'd say, about 1990 to like 1998. Like that's a solid 8-year run. That's a solid 8-year run of hyper masculinity and Michael Jordan and, Bo Jackson and, like all this just, athleticism. And then, you got, just freaking, Wesley Snipes is now a kung fu star and he's doing Demolition Man and shit like that. Like
on the ground or else.
Anti-graffiti activation program activated. Aborted. Human presence detected. Safety override code accepted.
Lucky number 7. Oh! Okay.
We're police officers. We're not trained to handle this kind of violence.
Hey, wait for me!
So again, this sort of massive promotion, and a lot of people they just didn't see it coming, and so when I was listening to that woman, file her complaints, about, pretty privilege, and I know she was more focused on pretty privilege than colorism and even featurism, but I'm telling you, it's featurism. There is a subcategory, or a category of black women that just goes completely ignored. I mean, they are the category, technically speaking. It's not even a subcategory. They are the category. That is what most non-racially ambiguous black women look like. But, somehow, I'm telling you, and I've been called this, let me go out here and get me one of these dark-skinned Indian women, or go out here and get, a woman that, that looks like even freaking, Megan Thee Stallion is another keen featured black woman. She ain't no Viola Davis. She's not. And so, you go out here, you get with Megan Thee Stallion, and black women are black love, and I'm like, you're not realizing that she's, phenotypically, she's marginally in a different category. And those women have become, if we want to talk about a woman being, black enough to where people aren't saying that she's mixed or that she's exotical or something else, those women have become the face of, the Sierras. They've become the face of black beauty. And what you'll see, if you look around, the black women that are, West African featured, you're not seeing them play the love interest. You're not seeing them, promoted anywhere. You're not seeing any amount of thirst. You're not seeing them, jump up and down. So when I saw the sister, and make her video, and she talked about when she walked in the club, I did cringe when, she was like, and this is what I look like when I'm all done up. And then she had the weave on, and I'm like, see, keep reinforcing the idea. Even you feel yourself, that, that look, having hair that's, running down your shoulders and everything, that is what's feminine and that is what's beautiful. And I can tell you that brothers are like, nah, I don't want that. I want the real thing. I can go out here and get the real thing because of that whole aspect of the expanded light skin universe. Before in the community, it was just really black men and light skinned women. But once black men, the media machine and hip hop culture, and they started blowing up, then it started to expand outward. And then, you started to have the expectation, because here's what the problem is. The expectation is changing. I wanted to finish my sentence. Now it's at a point, in my opinion, and this is a major problem, because replacing replacing colorism with featurism doesn't make this problem any better, of tackling, black women's beauty. Because what I see now is where black women's beauty is always being examined through the lens of the expanded light skin universe. Before it may have been examined through the lens of, through the white woman's lens, but now it's being expanded even through the expanded light skin universe, all these other women that black men feel that they have access to. And even if we took black women and we promoted them heavily, just attractive, dark skinned, West African featured women, if we promoted them the way that they should be promoted, there's going to be some major pushback coming from black men. I guarantee you that right now, because a lot of them are really, you come through and you tell people, like, it's like this. I think the new C8 Corvette is a beautiful car. But there's some people that it's in their mind like it's just a Chevy. Like, it's just a Chevy. Like, there's no way that C8 can be, sit right next to a Ferrari. There's just no way. It's a Chevy. And there's people that, that's how they process it. It's burned into their mind, and that's what it is. And quiet as it's kept, the same thing, goes for, light-skinned black men. There's women, both light and dark, who look at light-skinned men like, I just can't. I mean, if that's what you like, he all right. They just can't do it. There's no value there. They just don't. The idea of what they think is masculine and sexy is Broderick or Kofi, Broderick Hunter or Kofi. Like, that to them is a sexy black man, and that's all they want. You throw Christopher Williams, even in his prime, in front of them, they're like, he all right, and I just watched a video from Kenya, and I sent it to Cap, and he was kind of fucked up about it. He was like, damn, I thought we were winning abroad as light-skinned men. But the woman in Kenya, she said the same. She was like, yeah, I just can't date a man. It's just, if he's just too pretty, he can't be prettier than me.
We're just gonna go straight into it. What do you think about light-skinned men?
Light-skinned men. Actually, I will talk from my point of view. I have dated one light-skinned man, and I remember he was actually lighter than I was.
Really?
Yes, he was he was lighter. He was actually very handsome. Oh yeah, I was equally beautiful.
Right
Yes.
It turned
Oh
ugly
yeah,
once
he's
they
in the
broke up.
past. She's in the past.
Oh.
But I remember there's a time we were going out, and I was in shorts, and he was in shorts. And imagine you're literally like competing. Brown thighs, brown thighs. You get it?
Okay.
You didn't want to
I feel
compete no
it's
more.
like it's like weird for a light-skinned guy to actually wear shorts if they are dating a light-skinned babe. It's like,
Why?
I feel like you're in some sort of competition. Like your thighs are brown, Kim. Are you kidding?
What?
I think you're being
get you.
selfish.
That's why I can't date someone who is cuter than me. Like, what are we doing? We want to compete for the
Exactly,
mirror?
because, I mean,
I think that's a bit of selfishness.
why do you think that?
Because how can you say that you should not put on shorts because you're light skinned? Because people are gonna see us with the same color
at
of
the
thighs.
end of the day,
I thought you liked this person because you like them.
yes, I did, but I'm just trying to. You asked me if
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like light-skinned guys or if
I'm
I
also
can
trying
date
to
them.
dig on it.
Okay, but right now where I'm at, I don't think I can date a light-skinned man. And also they have light-skinned men. I feel like, okay, I'm not trying to be negative or something, but there is something about them. They feel like they are equally as beautiful as we are. So
They're so full of themselves. No offense.
yes,
Oh my
you've
God.
seen all these memes going around
Yeah.
about light-skinned guys
Anyway,
and all that.
Is that
So,
really true?
yes, it is.
John,
Too
and there
high
are
anyway.
dark-skinned men who are so full of themselves.
They exist, but we'll get to them when the time is right.
And they were using the Kenyan standard of being light. And even some of the comments, I guess they were Kenyans, they were like, yeah, she's light skinned. And I was just, as African American, I was just kind of sitting there like, huh? You know what I mean? But, my light skin, dark skin scale is kind of messed up. I've been told that. But, this, I'm just saying, like, this is what has, this is what has been transpiring, in the dating market. And, I mean, there's two solutions as far as I'm concerned. One's unrealistic, one's realistic. Heavy promotion of dark-skinned women who have, that are attractive, 4C hair, however it's styled is however it's styled. But dark-skinned, non-racially ambiguous women, heavy promotion. But, it's like, I don't even know if that's going to come anytime soon, because it's like black women have not come to the realization of what I'm talking about. They're still up there talking about, Meghan Markle's a beautiful woman. Now, some are becoming smarter and calling it out, but, it's we don't have a media machine. So a lot of women, if they don't come to YouTube, they're not getting the memo. Just as with black men, if they're not coming to YouTube, they're not getting the memo. Okay, so this is like literally the only platform that we've had. All other platforms that have attempted to be created, like Black Junction or even Gen X, have failed because black people didn't support it like they should have supported it. And so now all we have is, YouTube and the mainstream, and, that's how we, convey and get our messages out. But I'm just saying, black people really need, to reassess this. They really need to reassess this, because that's how powerful media is. A lot of sisters, they want to get up and they want to get angry at black men about it. I'm like, you were affected the same way. The dark-skinned men were not in the 80s. You know what I mean? Yeah, they were the default, but they were not, black dark-skinned men got launched into the stratosphere in terms of their desirability because of what was going on, in the 90s. When it came to, hip hop music, and then, sports, Michael Jordan dunking from the foul line. Like, I mean, it just, the whole dynamic changed, you go to the arcade, and there is NBA Jam, boom shaka laka laka. You know what I mean? Like, it was everywhere. It was everywhere. Some of you, I mean, that was before your time, but I'm telling you, it was everywhere. And then black people, had a little window of becoming conscious. And I'd say 92 with Malcolm X movie coming out with Denzel Washington playing Malcolm X, and that's what brothers were talking, sisters, light skin and dark, were following brothers. They were talking all this type of shit like, yeah, man, we, fuck the police, and, we going to go over and build Wakanda. And it never happened. And all that happened were, the dark-skinned dudes that couldn't handle light-skinned women, they came to collect, and they started messing with all the light-skinned women that they could. They put them in their music videos, and then, that went on for that went on all the way up until now. That's where it originated. That's where it really started. And then slowly, as time went on, even the light-skinned black women weren't good enough. Then they started, early 2000s, everything was like, it was Oye Mi Canto, and, brothers were, hey, I'm over here with the Puerto Ricans, we over here with the Latinas, and then freaking, you had Puffy with J-Lo, then you had Snoop Dogg with, beautiful, beautiful, I just want you to know you're my favorite girl, right? And then he's all in Brazil and shit, and then they're showing, women that, I remember watching, talk about Chile setting the whole category. I remember watching Beautiful, and they had that chick on the beach with the curly hair, brown skinned chick. And it was like, yeah, man, I'm going down to Brazil because all these women are black, to where, yes, now that we're more conscious, yes, I must choose a black woman, but I only want a black woman that has these non-black features, which means she has to have hair of a non-black woman or in between hair of a biracial woman, and she has to have, keen features like straight nose and all that shit. And but she can be dark. So it was allowed for her to be dark because of this transition, in TLC. Because I don't think most people would disagree that Chili was the prettiest one out of the entire group. She was, the prettiest one, and that's it. It just took off from that point. And, and this is where we are. So when the sister was making her video, I knew exactly what she was talking about. I knew exactly what I was like, yeah, she doesn't have the look. I can't even sit there. If I'm being honest, I can't sit there and say that I would be looking at her, because I wouldn't. I think she has a great smile. She does have a great smile. I can give her that much. But in terms of, chasing it down and, oh, I got to have it. No. I wouldn't be moved. So I have to question my own affliction. I mean, if I'm being honest about it, I have to question my own affliction. When it comes to that, and I've been known this. I've been known, you go out here and you grab a woman that looks like Aaliyah and just make her darker. I mean, make her midnight black. It's like when people say, she's pretty for a dark skinned girl. What do they really mean when they say that? Think about it. What are they talking about? Are they talking about her skin color? Obviously not. They're talking about her features. She's pretty I'm telling you, you start going through she's pretty for a black girl. A lot of times the woman that's being elevated doesn't have the strongest, most West African features in the world. And see, the problem is in not defining Black beauty based on West African features and creating that lane or that category, all you're left with is the assumption that no woman can be beautiful with strong West African features because it's never been defined. Just as, freaking the girl that, Susan Moonsey, she didn't get what Chili got. There was no category. There was no fantasy category, when it came to her. And now it might have been because she was Indian and maybe brothers wanted to hold more ass. I'm like, Chili is petite. Chili doesn't have a whole bunch of ass. I mean, none of the members of TLC had ass. They had stomachs. They had some flat stomachs and, they were rocking the midriff, but there wasn't a whole bunch of ass to be had in Vanity, 6. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to cover, any other. And I might have to come back and make a part 2 if stuff comes to mind. But, this is how I see it. I remember one thing I wanted to say, because it's like, one of the things that I told Cap is I said, I think black men care more about features than they care about color. Because if that was the case, then none of these women that actually have color would be chosen or would be elevated. I'm like, it's the features they're looking for. It's just that most of the time, the features that they are looking for, they're not going to come on a dark-skinned woman. They're going to come on a light-skinned woman. It's rare that you're going to get a woman who's dark-skinned that has those features. But when it comes to black women, I think that black women and light-skinned women are more focused on color than they are on features. You see, so if you take a light-skinned dude and he's got light-skinned features, they're like, he's all right, he's this, he's that, right? But take a dark skinned dude, like, because I went and looked up Boris Cujo, and Boris Cujo got a couple pictures. There's a picture of him standing next to Kobe Bryant. Man, they look like they could be brothers, to be honest. Yeah, Boris is a little bit lighter, but Boris has enough color, at least in this photo, to where black women be like, that's a good looking, strong black man. And I'm like, but he's got the keen features. It doesn't matter. He's a good looking. I mean, if anything, I think that if a black man has keen features, but he maintains his dark skin, I think black women will jump up and down about him. Like you'll see this if you take a black man and give him some hazel eyes or some green eyes, you know what I mean? Make him have enough. Like even in that, like if I go back and I look at Janet Jackson in that Again video, that brother that was, the CSI brother, who, he resorted to drugs. He was green eyes, light skin, but he had the dreads. So it kind of like, okay, he's a brother, you know what I mean? But when it came to light skinned guys, even though they were culturally black, and that's what black women bond with when they look at light skinned women and mixed women, they're like, oh, but they're culturally black. But, like I've talked to Cap about this ad nauseum. It's like, yeah, but even a light skinned guy being culturally black, it's still not good enough. I mean, they are just out. Going back to what he said, there's only 3 people in the black community: dark skinned black men, dark skinned black women, and light skinned black women. He's like, we are out. He's like, I don't care what anybody has to say about it. We are out. We've been out. And so, when it comes to the possibility of what can and can't happen, he's like, oh, no, it can definitely happen because that's how the hell we got kicked out. You know what I mean? And that's why he insists on calling light-skinned black women self-hating, because they go up there and they say the same thing that dark-skinned women say.
I feel like everyone has a preference So for me personally, I love my black kings, but I'm also.
Are you sure about that?
About light-skinned dudes. And the thing is like the dark-skinned men, obviously, they're happy because they're being chosen by the light-skinned women that they want. They're like, "Oh, I mean, of course she wants us. I mean, look at us," right? That's what dark-skinned dudes will say. And then if a light-skinned chick dogs out a light-skinned dude, like, I just can't. He looks like my brother. I love my black kangs, like Miss Angola from BK Chat, Miss DeSantos, right? I just love my black kings. Dark skinned sisters, they identify with that and they co-sign it. Dark skinned sisters don't sit there and call the light skinned and racially ambiguous, and they're like, you know what, you sound pretty self-hating. No, it's like the only men that can be self-hating are black men. And you can't charge dark skinned women for being, even though they're discriminating against light skinned men, you can't charge them with a crime because that's not their male counterpart. They want their male counterpart. We know it comes from the power of the media, but it doesn't matter. They want their male counterpart. Good luck trying to prove that there's somehow there's something wrong with their choice, or that their choice is solely based off of media when they are choosing what they're supposed to be choosing. It's black men out here who, technically speaking, aren't choosing what they're supposed to be choosing, or what they want is they want, this watered down version, which is like, there's a lot of confusion that goes on. And don't get me wrong, some of the men know that there's confusion and they slickly, get it past, black women's defenses just because the woman is dark skinned. But I'm way smarter than that. I recognize that shit. That's why I called it out years ago. I was like, yeah, Imam Bowie is cool to go up against the white beauty standard, but as soon as I pick Imam Bowie, it's a problem. Or a woman that looks like Imam Bowie. As soon as I pick Chili, it's a problem. As soon as I pick Sierra, it's a problem. As soon as I pick, Lori Harvey, it's a problem. As soon as I pick Tatiana Ali, it's a problem. You know what I'm saying? It's a problem. And I'm like, but these women, and then again, the disingenuous response is, well, these women are black. They're just beautiful black women. You're just mad because you don't look like them because you're ugly. Right? And that's how the shit plays out. Now, I'm not going to sit there. Now, this is where the unrealistic part on a lot of sisters comes into the room. Again, black beauty has not been defined. And a lot of black women respond, even when they become woke to this reality of the situation that I just laid out before you. They get on well, every dark skinned woman is a 10. Every black woman with strong black features is a 10. And that's not the case. You know what I mean? We can tell the difference between Blair Underwood and Flavor Flav, or Idris Elba and, some, black man that's not, attractive. We know what attractive. That's the whole thing. We know what an attractive black man looks like. The world knows what an attractive black man looks like. The world does not know what an attractive black woman looks like. And that includes black men. Non-racially ambiguous. I'm telling you, the definition is, it's all over the place. It's just all over the place. Like, it's like people start with a woman that's, not racially, black, not non-racially ambiguous, and they'll be like, here's a black woman, and then they'll try to make her beautiful, as opposed to starting with a black woman that they actually, think or believe is beautiful. I think, who are we talking? We were talking about somebody who was put in the spotlight but wasn't. Oh, we were talking about black singers of the past, because there was a whole bunch of black singers from the 80s that we went through. I mean non-racially ambiguous black women, that just, they were just regular black women. They had a hit song or something, and they did like a video. And what was the video that he sent me? I think it was Give Me the Night. What was it? Was it Give Me the Night that he sent me? Let me see if I can find it. It was, let me see if I can find this video. Let me see if I can find it. I hate the way Cap stuff comes up, because, where's it at? No, that's the Charmalar. Yeah. Shannon, Give Me the Night. Now Cap said, hey, I was digging her, but, 1984. Nah, she got no. Yeah, it's called Shannon, Give Me the Night. It's an old song. Y'all heard the beat before. It's been remixed many, many times. A perfect example of a non-racially ambiguous black woman that just went under the radar. Now, again, the only pushback I gave was these women were black women who just so happened could sing, but they were not. They were put up there because they could sing. They were not put up there as sex symbols first. And so what I think needs to be focused on for anyone who wants to engage in uplifting the black women's image, you got to put black women who are put up there for the sole purpose of being a sex symbol, for the sole purpose, and that is it. Why is she up there? Like all this stuff that everybody was jumping on Kim Kardashian. That bitch doesn't have any talent. It's like, she's just pretty. It's like, yeah, that's what we need. We need black women that are just pretty, no talent, some no talent having ass bitches that just look good and are just there to be eye candy. That is it. We don't need her to be an engineer. We don't need her to be a strong, independent black woman. We don't need her to be a CEO, corporate executive. I know you're going to have the Harriets are going to say, no, we want a black woman that she must accomplish it all. She must have everything. And it's like, no. That's not how this is going to be effectively done. You need to have women that are just up there to look just like again, that's another, well, I don't want to give her that, but she kind of does fall in the keen feature category because she's not in the, doesn't have the super strong West African features. I was going to say the woman that was in Django that Leonardo DiCaprio had, Shiva that he had, and she was just there to be arm candy. I'm saying a black woman, non-racially ambiguous, to play just that role. You are here to be our arm candy and eye candy. That's how you're going to turn it. But again, I already know that there's already pushback on that. I've already heard the black feminist videos. We are not here to just be, something on a black man's arm. We are not here. And so you get all into that. And then, that even messes up. You get all these women that are in their masculine energy. And it's like, I'm sitting there. I'm like, I already know I'm going to get pushback from black men on this. And then your stupid ass, you're giving me pushback too? I am not going to be just a piece of meat on a black man's arm. A black woman can accomplish so much more. And then you get the other women. Why can't we be both? Why can't we be the arm candy and be super successful corporate executive chief officers in, Merrill Lynch? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, really? Like, we're just talking about beauty here. We're just talking about looks. We're talking about thirst. We're talking about, being the prize and all that other stuff. So it's like, you think, oh, see, it's just black men. They're self-hating and they're just going to give push. No, you'll get pushback from black women as well. You'll get the anti, wanting to be pretty and I'm not wearing heels and I don't feel that women should have to wear makeup, all that crap. And I'm not here for it. But anyway, I hope I touched all the bases. If not, I'll come back to this topic. Yeah, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out.